Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on my channel Johnny Talks. Today we're going to take a break from covering the Ohio 11th Congressional District race in which Nina Turner is running in order to look at one of the most interesting races on the Republican side come 2020. It is the Wyoming at large congressional district race, and it will show whether it's the Trumpists or the traditional Republican establishment that is really in control of the party. Now, Wyoming at large congressional district has from 2016 on been represented by Republican Liz Cheney. She is the daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, the man that found it okay to lie to the American people about Iraq possessing weapons of mass destruction, provoking the Iraq War that has its ripple effects felt in America. Even today, there are still US troops in Iraq, for instance. Liz Cheney is one of the most reliable neocons of the House of Representatives, and just to show you how much she absolutely loves war with anyone from Afghanistan to Iraq to even Iran, I will show you a supercut that I have compiled.
So, but this is a Trump policy. What do you say to this?
Yeah, well, Lindsey Graham and his sidekick in the House, Liz Cheney, have just never met a war they didn't like. It's ludicrous to think that 3,500 U.S. troops with limited capabilities are really what's keeping the Taliban and al-Qaeda at bay. We've been there 20 years. I think we've made our point pretty clear to everyone in Afghanistan that if they host a terrorist group that attacks the United States, it will cause problems.
Mr. Cheney is renewing his criticism of Mr. Obama with the help of his daughter, Liz, a former State Department official and one-time Senate candidate. In their upcoming book, Exceptional, published by Simon & Schuster, division of CBS, they accuse Mr. Obama of retreating from the world's problems, diminishing America's power as the threat of terrorism rises.
This is a pretty harsh criticism of a sitting president.
Well, it is a necessary criticism, I think, is the way we both feel about it. That, it's not an attack on him as a person, but it's very much sort of raising the alarm about the policies.
Take, for instance, their criticism of the president's recent nuclear deal with Iran.
With this deal, we cut off every single one of Iran's pathways to a nuclear program.
You say of the deal that the Obama agreement will, 1, lead to a nuclear-armed Iran, 2, a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, and 3, the first use of a nuclear weapon since Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's a pretty daunting prediction.
I think we say it may well lead to the first use of a nuclear weapon since Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Nearly 7 years out of office, Mr. Cheney remains a man not eager to make either apologies or skirt controversy.
You're just nothing but warmth and friendliness and so forth. Seriously can't deal with the kinds of issues that I've had to deal with over the years, and I wanted to deal with them. It's almost, I think, if you are criticism-free, then you're probably not doing your job.
For his daughter, that unyielding nature is one of the most appealing things about him.
I know of no one who has been more courageous and dedicated and honorable than my dad in terms of being willing to say, this is absolutely what we have to do, this is the right thing to do, and sometimes when nobody else is willing to do it. I know for all of us who love you, the gratitude as Americans that we feel is matched only by our love for him. Don't look at me.
Well, no, thank you.
Madam President. Senator from Kentucky. The best part of any debate is when you see people twisting themselves in knots, going against their own alleged principles to get their desired results. Today the subject is war powers. The hawks and the neocons somehow want you to believe, in contrast to all logic, that the President of the United States has the unitary power to go to war anytime he wants, anywhere, free from interference from Congress. That's their stated position. Anytime war comes up. Yet today, in the NDAA, they say they now want a president that cannot leave a war without their permission. How absurd is that? Representative Liz Cheney has argued that the nature of military and foreign policy demand the unity of the singular executive, and that the founders certainly did not intend, nor does history substantiate, the idea that Congress should legislate specific limits on the president's powers in wartime. Liz Cheney, who is also, ironically, the author of this amendment to the NDAA, she said we shouldn't limit the president's powers in times of war, and then she authors a limitation on the president removing troops from war. So which is it? I guess she's only for this unitary power. She's only for this all-powerful commander-in-chief when they fight war. But if a president wants to end a war, oh no, Congress has to stop them at all costs from ending a war.
So, as you can see, Liz Cheney absolutely loves war. And she also loves big tax cuts for corporations and rich people. And she loves social conservative policies. For instance, she's against gay marriage, although she has a sister who is a lesbian. So yeah, not the greatest member that the Congress has, but crucially for this video, she is not a Trumpist. She actually is part of the Republican establishment from the tradition of George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. So, naturally, she is not all in on Trump's policies, like for instance the free trade stuff, where she's much more for open trade with the world. And she is not like a Trump fanboy, like for instance many of the other representatives that's totally licking the boot and seeking his approval for everything. And when the January 6th riots happened, she broke off clearly from Donald Trump and Trumpism, because what she did in the aftermath of the destruction at the Capitol was that she clearly distanced herself from Donald Trump and actually voted to impeach him, condemning him in very strong words, something that pissed Trump fans off.
We have some breaking news. Wyoming Congresswoman and House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney says she will vote to impeach President Trump, releasing a statement that says in part, the President of the United States summoned this mob, assembled this mob, and lit the flame of this attack. Everything that followed was his doing. None of this would have happened without the president. The president could have immediately and forcefully intervened to stop the violence. He did not. There has never been a greater betrayal by a president of the United States of his office and his oath to the Constitution. I will vote to impeach the president.
So Liz Cheney, the number 3 Republican in the House, the conference chair, joined what was only 10 Republicans voting against Daddy Trump in the impeachment trials. And of course, it pissed people off, as earlier mentioned. You know, the Trumpists, they do not tolerate dissent very much. And just right after she had cast her vote, Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida went up to Wyoming to raise a crowd against Liz Cheney and to incite people to do a primary challenge against her. I have a clip from that.
In other news tonight, Florida Republican Representative Matt Gaetz held a rally in Cheyenne, Wyoming today against Liz Cheney.
I'll confess to you, this is my first time in Wyoming. I've been here for about an hour, and I feel like I already know the place a lot better than your misguided representative, Liz Cheney.
Gaetz is hoping to create backlash against the number 3 House Republican after she voted to impeach former President Donald Trump for inciting the riot at the U.S. Capitol. Now, Cheney was one of only 10 Republicans who voted to impeach the former president. Gaetz is one of a few Republicans who has positioned himself as a bearer of the former president's brand, saying last week he believes we ought to embrace the spirit and style of President Trump.
My old man calls it prairie populism. Do right by your people. Never sell out. Fight their dislikes. And never let the powerful run over the weak.
And Montana Representative Matt Rosendale is also one of the Republicans working to oust Cheney from her leadership role.
So, as you can see, many Republicans are eager to get Liz Cheney out of her position of power in the GOP and Congress altogether. And on January 10th, just 4 days after the Capitol insurrection, State Senator Anthony Bouchard announced that he would be running against Liz Cheney. There have also been other announcements, like for instance some guy named Chuck Gray, I think he's a representative or something. But Bouchard is really putting himself in the position of challenging Liz Cheney from the right. He is running an aggressive campaign and was on with Laura Ingraham about his decision to run.
Last week, Liz Cheney voted to impeach Donald Trump, and now she has her first 2022 primary challenger. State Senator Anthony Bouchard joins me now. State Senator, thank you for joining us. Now, Liz Cheney said she voted her conscience, so what's wrong with that?
Well, she's not there to vote her conscience. She's there to vote for the people of Wyoming. What we've had is a full-on attack on conservatives. It's gone on and on and on. And we had a man that was president that was fighting for us, and what he got out of this was an ice pick in the back by 10 people. And I expect that from the swamp in Washington. What I don't expect, and what the people of Wyoming don't expect, is somebody from Wyoming helping to stab him in the back. And so that's why I'm running. I think we have to make a good fight against what's going on. Energy costs are going to go up, taxes are going to go up, the wall's coming down, jobs are going to go away, the Green Deal. Who's going to fight if we have people going in from Wyoming, going to Washington to just make deals? What good is that going to do? We need fighters to go back to.
I would say it would be nice if Liz Cheney and others, Mitt Romney, were as tough on Democrats as they are on people like Donald Trump. I mean, they seem to have a lot of fight when it's fighting against the populist conservatives. But when it comes to fighting against the Democrats, I'm not sure. And 15 seconds, how are you going to beat the Cheney war machine, Senator Bouchard?
Well, as you know, we announced yesterday, it's been on fire. I mean, I couldn't be more pleased. People are going to our website, anthonyforwyoming.com, and, the ticker just keeps rising. So we hope that...
All right, we'll be watching. We'll be watching,
Thanks.
Senator Bouchard. Thank you so much.
So, Anthony Bouchard, running because Liz Cheney so-called betrayed the Republicans in Wyoming by voting in the impeachment trial. And as you may have guessed, he is a Trumpist through and through, fighting the so-called globalist agenda and having all the right-wing positions on immigration, abortion, drugs, all of that stuff, right? So he's a little bit less pro-war than Liz Cheney, however, and that's kind of a good thing. But he is campaigning aggressively. He has a Twitter account called Anthony Bouchard for Congress Against Liz Cheney, which is a name I like because, fighting Liz Cheney is an honorable goal, even though he's a right-wing Republican. And he also has got a lot of campaign donations from small dollar donors. And I think it shows that the Republican base is quite excited for a populist candidate instead of the corporatist Liz Cheney, that of course has a large war chest, mainly I think from her donors. I'm not sure about that, but she's a corporate Republican. What can you do? They always get money from rich people wanting to pay less in taxes and not really caring about anything else than that. Maybe some war, that's probably something they think is nice. Especially the contractors, like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. Many of them give money to both Republicans and to Democrats. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if some of the money Liz Cheney rakes in from corporate donors comes from the defense contractor industry, because she is, as I have mentioned many times through this video, really the biggest neocon that you can find in the House of Representatives. So Anthony Bouchard have heated up a race by releasing an ad. I'm going to show you that one.
Wyoming was Donald Trump's best state not once, but twice. Liz Cheney betrayed nearly 200,000 of us who voted to re-elect our president. I'm State Senator Anthony Bouchard running against Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney's vote for impeachment was an outrage, and it's not the only reason I'm running. President Trump made America great again with America First policies like bringing home our troops, building the wall, and fighting illegal immigration. All policies Joe Biden, Liz Cheney, and their fellow globalists oppose, not me. I'm State Senator Anthony Bouchard, and I stand for the Trump agenda of America First, not Liz Cheney's globalist agenda of America Last. My name is Anthony Bouchard. No one fights harder for taxpayers, and no one fights harder for freedom. I'm running for Congress and approve this message because America needs conservative champions to resist the Biden-Harris agenda and put taxpayers first. Paid for by Anthony Bouchard for Congress.
So, looks as though it will be the most interesting Republican primary and election altogether in Wyoming for a long time. I will try to follow this race because I find it interesting, and it's also very fun to see Republican establishment hacks getting their comeuppance, going to the House floor, making statements, pretending they're some kinds of angels in the face of the Trump malaise, but they are not. Mitt Romney, for instance, a private equity guy, pretending that he's suddenly the nation's savior after helping to ship jobs overseas. I'm not saying Trump is good, Trump is very bad. Me, as a progressive, I think that he is very damaging for America and America's democracy. But that does not mean that the corporate Republican goons like Liz Cheney should be hailed as some kind of heroes. And I personally think that Anthony Bouchard will win this race. There have been a number of polls indicating that he is in the lead over Liz Cheney, both in the primary with 3 candidates and in the runoff. And frankly, it will be nice to have a number 3 Republican in the House that is not a complete pro-war hack. But I will post updates, if there are any, about the race. If there are some debates, I'll try to make a supercut of those. And thank you for tuning into the channel. And I'll see you next time, maybe with some stuff on the Democratic side, because the Republicans are totally insane, like, altogether. Liz Cheney is what's considered a Republican moderate these days, saying something about how far the party has gone to the right and to the extreme. But all in all, I frankly hope that Anthony Bouchard gives Liz Cheney a run for her money and maybe defeats her, so that we don't have to listen to any more Cheneys in American politics in the time to come. Remember to like and subscribe in order to get the latest videos, and I would appreciate if you leave a comment, tell me what you think. That's all, thank you for watching and goodbye.